Huge.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kat Timpf, along with Eric Bolling and Eboni K. Williams. We are the Fox News specialists. President Trump is currently en route to Saudi Arabia with the First Lady Melania Trump, leaving the United States just hours ago to kick off his first overseas trip. The president is slated to meet with the Saudi king and other members of the Saudi royal family during his stop, with combating terrorism expected to be a major focus. The president also scheduled to visit Israel, including a meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Then on to the Vatican, which will include an audience with Pope Francis. Then a stop in Belgium, where President Trump is expected to reaffirm the U.S. commitment to NATO. And finally, President Trump will wrap up the 8-day trip attending the G7 summit on the island of Sicily. And with the president in the air, anonymous leakers are behind two fresh reports taking direct aim at President Trump. The New York Times is reporting that during his meeting with Russian officials last week, President Trump called former FBI Director James Comey a, quote, real nut job, and that Comey's firing had relieved, quote, great pressure on him. Meanwhile, the Washington Post is reporting that a senior White House official is now a significant person of interest in the Russia probe. Don't forget, however, that both newspapers have had to walk back other recent reports about Comey in Russia, so it's really hard to know who to trust at this point.
Can I just throw this out there? The White House responded to both of those reports this afternoon via Sean Spicer. He said the president said, once again, the real story is that our national security has been undermined by the leaking of private and highly classified conversations. And Spicer added, as the president has stated before, a thorough investigation will confirm that there was no, and this is the operative part here, no collusion between the campaign and any foreign entity. So they're staying on that. Nonetheless, the leaks continue to happen.
Well, of course. I think that that's a good tone that Spicer took in that. What do you think, Eboni?
Yeah, I think so. I think at this point, he's got to say something and get in front of this. I think the timing, you know, even those of us who are legitimately concerned, we want to see what comes through of this investigation. It's still very much open and alive. The timing, though, you know, you wait until the president leaves for this 8-day trip, and now all of this comes out. I'm a little suspicious of it, but ultimately I want to know more. I want to see the receipts. I know Vladimir Putin's offered up to give us transcripts. I don't know how much we trust transcripts from Vladimir Putin, but they would be interesting.
I'd say not. I'd say not trust. I go with not
no
trust.
on that?
Yeah,
okay.
all right.
Yeah.
Let's meet today's specialists. He started his radio career on a segment called The Drive on SportslineUSA.com. He's a former sports update man for the Imus in the Morning radio show, and he's currently the co-host of the Bernie and Sid show, and he specializes in sports and other useless information.
That's me.
Sid Rosenberg is here.
A lot of useless information. Like if you want to know the third leading actor in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I got that for you.
Wonderful. We need that. All right. And he's a graduate of the College of Mount St. Vincent in the Bronx, New York, the executive producer of the Imus in the Morning show and the other co-host of the Bernie and Sid show, but he specializes in shucking clams.
Yes,
Bernard McGuirk is here. Hey, Bernie.
Hey,
how's
what's
it going?
up? What's up, folks? Thanks for having us. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Of course.
Put your seatbelts on. I think it's
Go, come on. Let's rock and roll, baby.
Hey, Bernie, can I just jump in? You mind if I jump in on this?
Sure.
So Trump wheels up, as Eboni points out, wheels up, and all this stuff starts to leak. Meanwhile, this trip is kind of important, right? So he's going to do this trip that very noteworthy that President Obama's first trip was to Egypt, where he kind of apologized for American exceptionalism and whatnot. President Trump is out there saying, we're going to fight terror, and we're going to fight it with our allies, and that's where he went. He went right to Israel. He's going right to Saudi Arabia. Yeah. He's going right to Egypt, all of our strongest allies in the Middle East.
That's right. The new attitude, I think, is speak softly and carry a big stick, but use it judiciously. Remember, America first. No more nation building, handing out lollipops, democratizing, none of that stuff that they don't appreciate and they can't really handle. I mean, we prop up guys like Al-Sisi these days, and that's the way to go. President Trump going to Saudi Arabia first to give a speech on Islam in front of Muslims who are receptive to him. I mean, it's amazing. It's kind of a little bit like Tim Tebow giving an address before the Adult Video Awards, to be quite honest with you. It's a little incongruous. However, the fact of the matter is that despite the travel bans and all that stuff that, you know, people say all the Muslims hate Trump, he's getting this coalition together among Sunni Muslims, including and the Israelis, to fight Iran and the Shiites over there. And they're behind him. They're on his side. And they like him. They like him over there.
And just to make a sports analogy, sometimes teams play really badly at home and better on the road. It's been a rough 2 weeks at home for Donald Trump. It's time to get out of here.
This is a very good point.
Right?
I'm sorry. The point is that, yeah, he's had a rough go.
Yeah.
And presidents always look bigger and stronger when they're overseas.
That's right. And being the only Jew here up on the dais tonight, the Israel trip's important to me because when you consider two things. First of all, he's got to come to the point where he admits the Western Wall is a part of Israel. His administration has to say that. And secondly, of course, the rumors are that the intelligence leaked to the Russians came from an Israeli. So that Israel trip later on in this trip becomes very important because all of a sudden, the Jewish people who are excited about Trump because Obama was a dog, all of a sudden now he's got to regain the trust of the Jewish people.
Said was Obama a dog when he gave us, what, $52 billion in aid to Israel?
Every president has to do that. That's
but I'm just saying
that
was the largest gift. So I'm not saying that the Iran deal wasn't a problem because I think that
Huge
it was
problem?
Huge problem.
Right.
But I don't think that he was a dog. But
why didn't Netanyahu like him? Why didn't Bibi like him? Why didn't Bibi like him?
They had a bad relationship. I'm not saying that. Also, there are also people in Israel that have a problem with Netanyahu, and you and I both know that. So let's not
part of the
use that
reason
as
was that President Obama tried to get Bibi tossed out of office on his last election.
And I'm not talking about
he actually almost campaigned and pushed for
he did actually.
Bibi's competitor.
That's different than being an enemy of Israel itself.
Eboni, this trip is obviously incredible, and this is the version of Trump that I like when he kind of changes his mind a little bit on foreign policy, where he's diplomatic and he's making an effort to go out across the aisle and talk to people. But do you think that this is going to be in the news as much because all this Russia stuff is in the news? I looked at Google search results, or the amount of times people are searching Trump, Russia, and it goes in spikes. And the highest spike was when that BuzzFeed thing came out, and then when the Flynn thing came out, it spiked again, but it was a little lower. And then there was another spike with the Comey firing, but it was a little lower. So it does seem like people might be losing interest in the story. So
your concern is really important. And Sid and I can go back and forth about, Obama and Israel. But what's important here is Donald J. Trump, our president, is in this area right now. We all need to hope and pray that it goes well. Agreed. I certainly do.
Absolutely.
And it's very important. And to your point, Kat, people need to be engaged and as concerned about this as they are these leaks and everything else coming out of Washington.
Do you recall during the campaign Donald Trump's AIPAC speech?
Yes, I do.
It was a turning point for a lot of people who, weren't sure about Donald Trump. When he delivered that AIPAC speech, and I believe much of it was written by Jared Kushner.
It was.
It was a turning point. People started to embrace Donald Trump. And Israel started to embrace Donald Trump. And by the way, it's very, very refreshing to me after 8 years of a contentious relationship with Israel that Israel likes us again.
That's right.
Everybody did. I was in Israel as well, Eric. Everybody did not dislike America in Israel. I promise you that's not true. I promise.
But I guarantee you this, that President Trump has the Israelis back, and they know it. They know that he's their best chance, their best hope in that region. Now, as far as politics stopping at the water's edge, no way. Not with this president, not with this press, this venomous, psycho, unhinged, deranged, apoplectic press that hates his guts. You witnessed these last two things that came out here. First of all, a couple of stories last week. Rosenstein, there was a story about Rosenstein threatened to quit. There was also a story about Comey asked for more money for the Russia investigation. Both turned out to be untrue. You didn't hear the corrections, but you heard the initial story. Same thing with these stories they're letting out today about Trump, calling him a nutcake. And by the way, Comey is a half a nutcake.
Excuse me, nutcake, not nut job. We report everything completely accurately on this.
Nut job?
You just did fake news.
It was nut job.
No, you know who's doing the fake news is the New York Times. Putting that out in the first place. But he is a little unbalanced. Look what he did July 5th, going out there usurping the Attorney General. And everything he's done, he's a grandstanding narcissism and a deluded, self-important guy as well.
I don't think anybody argues that. I think he should have been fired. The question is, was the timing right? Right before the IG report comes out, which is going to be scathing anyway, why not wait? Right before Comey's about to testify, we all know he wasn't prepared for the job. He should have been fired. The question is, was the timing right? The timing
would never be right.
Trump.
Well, the timing was, okay, it wasn't just the timing, it was also the fact that the White House seemed to change positions on the reasons for why Comey was fired. 3 times. So when people change their story that much, I tend to not believe story number 3 quite as readily.
It only needed to be one reason. You serve the FBI director serves at the pleasure of the president. And if the president loses confidence in his FBI director, now is the right time.
Eric, I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is the fact that they changed the stories in itself is what makes me happy.
And I think, Eric, you've pointed that out, that some of the messaging coming out of the White House has been problematic because the only reason we've got competing narratives about whether Comey was fired because of Hillary's emails and the botched job, I agree with you, Bernie, on that, or was it because of the Russia investigation? The only reason those are competing narratives, Z, is because the White House, wasn't on one page.
Well, and Donald Trump, in fact, himself gave his own communications department, gave himself an A. Yeah. After 100 days. But he gave them, I believe, a B or a C, I can't recall, and he is right. Yeah. The communications department, and Spicer, I've known him a long time as well, but they really needed to get that thing locked down. This is what we're going with. Here's the story. We're putting it out so that there isn't any question as to what was the reason behind this. We got this before we go to the press.
Some of them were straight flips, though.
Hey, we got to go with written questions, or Trump does the press conferences himself.
That would be great.
I think we'd all would love that. All right. Amid this new round of leaks, doubt is being cast on all this innuendo by an unlikely source, California's Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein.
So far, you've not seen any evidence of collusion. Is that right?
Well, evidence that would establish that there's collusion. There are all kinds of rumors around. There are newspaper stories, but that's not necessarily evidence.
Sounds like Eric Bolling right there, huh?
a very left-leaning Democratic senator on the Intel Committee says we have no evidence of collusion. By the way, we've been saying this for the better part of 3 weeks into this show now, every single day. So they're worried about what Donald Trump says to Sergei Lavrov in the Oval Office about Comey being a nut job or a nut cake, whatever he said, instead of worrying about where's the evidence. And they're still. They leak everything Donald Trump does. They leak when he goes to the bathroom, how he orders a Pepsi. But the most important leak, if they had it, they don't have it. Otherwise, they would leak the evidence of collusion.
And you know where we get to put a nice button on that, Eric, just real quick, is when they come out and they say we have concluded this investigation and there is no evidence, you won't hear a peep from anybody. And anybody that's still talking at that point, Eric, is just a hater.
Except for the Democrats who say, well, one more investigation. Just one more investigation.
Schumer will claim something went wrong. I can guarantee you that.
You had this other troika, fake tears Schumer, you have seemingly tipsy Pelosi, and Maxine Waters. All of them saying there's no evidence of collusion. All of them saying the same thing. You know what this collusion is actually occurring is between people within the government and the press. There's collusion there. These leaks, which are illegal, that's where there's collusion. Well, I hope the FBI, this new Mueller guy, comes in and he investigates those leaks which are
we still don't entirely know yet. We still don't entirely know yet whether there's evidence of collusion. The investigation is still ongoing. But when these Democrats come out,
none yet.
Correct, exactly. So let me finish my point. So these Democrats who come out and say impeach him now, impeach him now, impeach him now, I think ultimately that hurts their cause because it makes it very clear that they're politically motivated. They are politically motivated.
If we're finding out leaks of very, very sensitive conversations that are going on in the Oval Office, and we're finding out leaks about what Donald Trump likes to do on his downtime, don't you think if there was any evidence whatsoever, someone would be leaking that information to the Washington Post?
Hey, look, you go back to Yates and Clapper, whoever's been out there talking about this, they've got nothing, and they're trying. They're trying really hard. So to your point, if they had anything, this thing would be out.
So let me ask Eboni. Eboni, we have 5 separate congressional investigations only going on, plus a general counsel investigation going on. Democrats today calling for yet another investigation. 7 investigations. We're picking up the tab for all of this stuff. At what point do we say, all right, enough is enough?
Well, actually, let me answer this real quick, Kat. It's actually a problem, Eric. You're right. And someone spoke about this. I believe it was the senator from Texas. This is a problem for resources, but also a problem because if we're all looking at the same witnesses, we're all trying to get the same evidence, at what point are people getting in each other's way around an effective resolution, a timely, effective resolution to these answers that we also desperately need? That is a problem. I think there's too many investigations. We need one special counsel, Mueller. We need probably 1, maybe 2 at the most, D.C. Capitol Hill type of investigations, and that's it.
We didn't even need the special counsel. Rod Rosenstein just felt the heat, and he was like, oh, my God, let's appoint somebody.
But what's the harm in it? What's the harm in it?
Well, it may have turned out to be a benefit for Donald Trump, but we didn't need it. It was all because, again, the unhinged, apoplectic, activist media screaming for it, making these Watergate analogies, which, by the way, you're ignorant if you think this is like Watergate. Go back and read history.
The Watergate analogy is ridiculous because there were actually names on that stuff. But Eric, that doesn't mean that there still can't be questions that people have.
How does it hurt, though?
I want Eric to.
Here's how it hurts. You have a general counsel who will go in and he'll bring in a whole ton of people, and they will start filing and paging through. They'll subpoena everyone. They'll
doing
subpoena
their job, Eric.
No, but here's what you're going to end up doing. You're going to open up cans of worms all over the place. Meanwhile, the American people just want to figure out what's going on with their economy, what's going on with
Couple
jobs.
cans need to be opened, though, right?
Yeah, but we're talking a year and a half of investigation. And I'm telling you, they're going to, Bernie.
Look at Hillary's uranium one while you're at it.
When you start flipping people, you're going to open up even more investigations.
Maybe
it's just going to be a storm, an S storm of you know what?
Well, James Comey's associates are now coming out of the woodwork to smear President Trump. You won't believe what's been said about a January greet between Comey and the president. Stay tuned.
Associates of James Comey are starting to come out of the shadows. Benjamin Wittes, a declared friend of James Comey, is going on record describing what Comey thinks are the president's alleged efforts to compromise him, starting with a public meet and greet between Comey and Trump back in January.
And what he told me was that it was bad enough that he was there. It was bad enough that there was going to be a handshake, but, you know, there really wasn't going to be a hug. And so if you watch the video, he extends his hand, and Comey's arms are really long, and he extends his hand kind of preemptively. And Trump grabs the hand and kind of pulls him into a hug. And Comey was just completely disgusted by the episode. He thought it was an intentional attempt to compromise him in public.
So if that greeting is considered by Comey as an effort of the president to compromise him, it seems like that evidence may be a little thin. Eric, I'm going to start with you here. Now, we all remember that other hug, right? The one between the governor, Chris Christie, and Obama. And that had some people say it had big consequences. So maybe this is real. It's the hug that's consequential.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ebony and Kat, but did that look like a hug to anyone at this table? It looked like
a little man tap.
It was a half a hug.
A little man tap.
Come on.
I'd say half hug.
Is this what we're nailing Donald Trump on because he tapped Comey on the back of the shoulder?
Sid,
how nitpicky can they possibly
Eric, there's
be?
more.
Is that a real hug?
I'm a hugger. I mean, I'm a type of guy. I hug everybody, and even Bernard has said to me at times,
he'll kiss you something.
Right, don't hug me. It doesn't mean I have any ulterior motives. Doesn't mean I have some type of crazy agenda. I'm just kind of a nice guy. Donald Trump stuck his hand out, maybe brooming just a little bit to say hello, but to say that was an uncomfortable circumstance or a hug or something over the top is completely ridiculous.
Bernie, let me go this with you. So this guy says he's a friend of Jim Comey, but not a best friend if you watch the whole thing. But for him not to be that close, I got really close girlfriends. We would have to sit on the phone for 24 hours for them to have this type of detail, right? I mean, don't you know an awful lot for it to be a loose associate?
This is unbelievably petty. Look, he was disgusted. He is the tallest snowflake that I know. I cannot. This guy, look, he's a disgruntled ex-employee. He's got all his little homeboys out there calling the New York Times or going on PBS or whatever it is to try to embarrass the guy that fired him for a good reason, by the way. And also, speaking of good reason, implicating Trump in trying to get him to stop an investigation. You know the testimony he gave on May 3rd to the Hawaiian Congress lady. I mean, he either perjured himself then or he implicated himself by not reporting a felony when Trump moved in on him and said, hey, I hope you take it easy on Michael Flynn. No, this guy's got himself in trouble, if you ask me. I think Trump is going to come home smelling like a rose out of this.
Comey's got big credibility problems. Kat, something else that we didn't show in the clip, but apparently Comey wore this blue suit intentionally so that he could literally blend in with the drapes because he is 6'8" and did not want to
Good luck. The drapes are pink would be a bigger problem for Jim Comey.
Right. Any there from your perspective? I know you're an expert when trying to blend in and camouflage.
100%. I think it's funny. Okay, this story is really funny. How is this not the best thing that's come out of the news all week? That maybe James Comey said he tried to camouflage his clothes to stay away from Donald Trump. That's a hilarious story, and I love it. I love it. And if Trump called Comey a nut job, that's kind of funny too. Again, we don't know any of this stuff. We are getting into the petty, but of course, as we're getting into the petty today, the investigation is becoming more serious because we have the special counsel. So I'm going to enjoy today. I'm going to enjoy the extent of things today being nut jobs and blending into the drapes because ha-ha is the only really response to that.
But is there any way that from the very beginning when Donald Trump asked him for his basically his loyalty, not his honesty. Is there any way that we're missing something? That Jim Comey is, in fact, a decent guy, wasn't happy about the loyalty pledge, really wanted somebody who was more going to be honest. Is there any way that Jim Comey is being made to look bad here? That Donald is, in fact, overstepping his boundaries, maybe once or twice?
Entirely
They're adversarial at this point.
No,
they're
it's impossible.
adversarial at this point.
No.
You just said it's impossible.
It's impossible.
That's what he said.
It is impossible because Comey serves at the pleasure of the president. And as we know, if Donald Trump said something in a meeting, he has and you pointed this out yesterday, he has that right to declassify whatever he says. It becomes declassified. So he didn't break the rule. We don't have any evidence, not a shred of evidence of collusion.
But I think Sid was talking about the loyalty pledge specifically.
But first of all, that's his word against Trump's word as well.
If it happened.
That's his word against his word.
Let's say Jim's telling the truth. Is it impossible to believe that he's telling the truth?
Why are you assuming he's telling the truth?
He's not assuming.
Why do we always
He's saying
assume
it's not
Donald? This is my
possible.
point. It's possible, Eric. It's possible. Then what? Then what?
Let's see
So
the
we're going to
memos.
indict the guy, and if it's possible.
No, I think
that's
he's
not
saying
what he's
that if it's possible, if the president did ask for loyalty, Eric, right, and Comey's obviously not comfortable with that, then what are his options? He could resign.
No, here's what his options were. He wrote an extemporaneous note months ago, and then testifies on May 3rd with his hand up, sworn testimony saying, oh, no, this type of thing never happened. He was specifically asked, did the DOJ ever ask you to compromise an investigation?
He said no.
He said no. That would be really bad. Had the opportunity to say, but no, but the president did. He had the note in his pocket.
That easily could come back to what we call impeaches credibility, Eric. You're exactly right. But up next, the media's bias against President Trump is no secret. But a new study detailing just how deep it runs may make your jaw drop. And then this. A new video raising disturbing questions about this week's attack on protesters by the Turkish president's security team in Washington. Stay with us.
The music, the moment you own it, you better never let it go. You only get one shot, do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime. You better lose it.
Welcome back. Time magazine out with their latest ridiculously biased cover, taking a cheap shot at President Trump, depicting the White House being enveloped by Russian-looking architecture. Very predictable, Time, very predictable. But there's a surprising new study out this week conducted by the very liberal Harvard University that exposes massive media bias, which I highlighted yesterday in yesterday's monologue. But take a look at this. On CNN and NBC, the coverage was 93% negative for Trump. The New York Times, 87% negative. Fox News, however, living up to our fair and balanced motto, 52% negative, 48% positive. But it gets worse for President Trump. Turns out the media is more negative towards Trump than any other recent presidents. Check this one out. The coverage is overwhelmingly more negative towards Trump than it was for President Obama, President Bush 43, and President Clinton. So it's not just a liberal conservative thing. They really are out to get him. Bernie, Eric. Exposing liberal bias, media liberal bias, like shooting fish in a barrel.
Absolutely. It is easy. Look, election night was fantastic. I mean, these people were shell-shocked. Of course, they looked like they got smacked in the back of the head by shovels, all of them. But it was almost better than watching adult movies for people like myself that particular night. So we saw it on display then, but they've regrouped. They've gathered themselves, and now they're on the offense. And they're to some degree successful, I would say, by the special counsel witnessed that. But the piranha press, the hate Trump press, the unhinged, deranged, hysterical, psychotic press. Listen, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, you mentioned Fox News, the great Roger Ailes, who actually, he broke that monopoly the liberals had on journalism, and now, thank the Lord Jesus, we have Fox News for that fair and balanced coverage. But yes, no shocker, no nothing. It is kind of disgusting. I mean, just imagine a world where all you had was Jake Tapper and George Stephanopoulos and Brian Williams, and that's it. And there was no Fox News.
All right, let's not imagine that.
That is fair, by the way, but and you're not going to like this part, Eric, I promise you that. But while I readily admit the left is biased, and it's nauseating to be quite frank, Trump doesn't help himself. And the small guys on the right, they're just as loud. Can we ever get to the point where there's some rational coverage, where it's not, I love Trump, so whatever he does is great, and it's not, I hate Trump, so whatever he does sucks? Can we get to the point we take it on a case-by-case basis and look at this guy and go, some of the reasons why he's getting all this negative press is because of him, quite frankly.
What special report with Brett Baer?
Well, look at the Fox number. I mean, 52-48, and you know, on the left they'll tell you, oh, Fox is all pro-Trump, but it's pretty much split down the middle at Fox alone.
That's true.
What's Shepard Smith?
This panel alone.
Right. Ebony, I didn't hear that. I want to still have a job Monday. Donald Trump, 80% negative tone to their. Now, this is a Harvard study.
Right, as ivory tower as one can get. And I've said it several times, Eric. You know I've said it. They don't like him. It's absolutely true. And look, let's talk about some of the reasons why. It just so happened, and there's been studies on this too, more liberal-minded folk tend to go into the journalism profession. That's one thing. So they tend to espouse. Now, there was a time back in the day where you could separate. You could trust journalists to separate their personal opinions from their objective job and present the facts as Sid just pointed them out. That time is gone. And I'm just not going to kid myself that we are living in those times, Eric. Those times are gone. And now it's up to the American people. And I think this is an unfair burden to put on them. But they almost have to be their own journalists. They have to vet everything individually.
Kat, so could they be unbiased journalists if CNN, NBC, CBS come in north of 90% negative tone to Trump?
I've never claimed that they were unbiased. And they're not. Of course, the media does hate Trump. That's obvious. Yeah. The media is harsher on Trump than they've been on any other recent president. I could have told you that before I saw this study. This is not surprising news to me. However, I completely agree with what Sid said. It's not. Some of it is because of Trump. Some of it is. Just because the media is unfair, which it is, doesn't mean that everything that they're reporting about him is incorrect.
Right.
There's a big difference there. There's a difference between unfair news and fake news. And some of it's been fake news, but it doesn't mean that all of it's fake. It doesn't mean that the media is always lying about Trump.
But emphasize Kat's point. If you know somebody's out to get you, you're going to stay away. In other words, if that's the best cornerback on the field, I'm not throwing the football in that direction. You know why? He may pick it off. So if you're Trump and you know they hate you, why exacerbate the situation?
Why be cowed by them? Why the hell with them? Say what you want to say.
Then you get 90% unfavorable
these guys, they're rabid, they're shrill, they're in a feeding frenzy, they're unhinged.
I need to point this out. Part of this Harvard study isn't what the story is, what Trump said. It's the tone of the news coverage. Now, CNN has some amazing journalists. I agree. Jake Tapper, Don Lemon, Wolf Blitzer, I think they're great journalists and opinion people as well. And Anderson Cooper. But they're coming in at 92, 93%.
They're very upset.
Right. They don't like it. They don't like
nobody
his
watches
policies.
them.
They don't like his policies, Eric. And as such, I think even when they make a good faith effort to be objective, it comes out, you know, just like you happen to like a lot of the president's policies. And that's good. That's a good thing. So your tone around covering it tends to be more positive.
Ebony, I think the problem is actually that people don't think of it in terms of policies very much. President Trump is super polarizing. There are people that hate Trump.
Yes.
And so anything that's associated with Trump, they hate it.
True.
And then there's people who love Trump. And so anything that's associated with Trump, they love it. And you better not say otherwise. People don't look at policies. People don't look. I don't care if you like the president or not. The wall specifically, yes. But
doesn't stop
overall,
you from having a fair and balanced panel instead of 9 against 1, including the anchor on the 9.
100% right.
Yeah, that's true.
100% right. If you look at our shows, there's always both sides represented. Sometimes three sides.
Yes.
We're going to have to leave it right there. It's that time of year again. Once again, our annual Fox Fan Weekend. Join us at Yankee Stadium on Saturday, June 10th, or Sunday, June 11th. Meet your favorite hosts from Fox and Friends and Fox News specialists. Enjoy food, drinks, giveaways, and catch what should be a great American League East matchup as the Yankees take on the O's, Baltimore Orioles. For your chance to win 2 tickets to 1 game, email your full name and phone number to foxfanweekend@foxnews.com. That's foxfanweekend@foxnews.com. But coming up right here, a shocking new video raising questions about whether Turkey's president ordered his security team to attack protesters in Washington this week. Wait till you see this one. This is the best video.
Welcome back to the Fox News Specialists. Our specialists today are Bernard McGuirk and Sid Rosenberg. Let's continue the conversation. A disturbing new video from this week's attack on protesters by security officials for the Turkish president in Washington. The new video showing Turkish President Recep Erdogan actually observing the brawl, and it's raising questions about whether or not he was involved in ordering it. Shortly before that fight starts, it appears Erdogan gives instructions to a member of his team, who then speaks to another man, and then the fight starts just seconds later. Yeah, that doesn't look good. The fact that he was just watching it like, oh, this is cool, that's fine. You know what, buddy, that's not how we do things at our house.
Well, I would ask this question. Where were those? We could have used those guys at UC Berkeley a couple of times.
Yeah.
And in the streets. So, you know, so part of me says, God bless. But, no, that's right. We don't do things this way. But look, if John McCain is Senator John Wayne McCain, a man who I happen to love, he's calling for throw out the Turkish ambassador, all that stuff. He's offended. He doesn't like them because they don't want to arm the Syrian Kurds or whatever. Listen, my thing is no more of this Mr. Nice Guy stuff. If he's on our side, if he helps us out, the strong man, even if he's a bad guy, there are going to be worse people who could replace him. Starting back with the Shah, Saddam Hussein, al-Sisi, and now Erdogan. If he's our guy, he's going to help us out. Then leave the ambassador in place. Say, listen, no more fights out in front of your embassy, and just move on. If he's going to help us.
He did meet with Donald Trump this week, so that was probably part of the aggravation. Led to some of the protests.
Same day.
Same day. So of course that preceded that. That's why we got that action. But I agree with Bernard. We have been taught time and time again that just when you think this guy is bad, wait for the next guy. Let's leave these guys in place and get the job done with them.
You mean Erdogan?
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Maybe.
Listen, I'll take a little different tact on this, and I know where you guys are coming from, but this is America where peaceful protest is protected by the First Amendment. Right. They completely overstep their bounds. I don't know you dispel the ambassador, as McCain had said, and you point out, Bernie, but I think you do, lean on him a little bit. Maybe even talk to him about possibly, pushing back on some of the things that we may be wanting to do with him. You can't do that. When I first saw that, I was positive that was not in America.
Right.
And then it looked like a movie set. It was crazy.
And I think that's the point, Eric. I agree with you fully. You guys send a strong message that we don't do this. Yeah. We don't do it. We don't tolerate it. We don't condone it. Even if ultimately we decide that there's some business we can do together around some other interests, that's not okay. Look at his reaction. It's super suspect, right? I mean, he is not even bothered whatsoever. I mean, I tend to think that, yeah, he knew it was, knew it was coming.
He's no better than the mayor of Berkeley, who stood by and watched for 8 hours the chairs being thrown through windows and people getting their butts kicked.
I would argue that he's probably a little better than the mayor of Berkeley.
Yeah, I'm going to go with her. I'm with you.
Just saying. I think that we never really do ourselves any favors when we try to get too involved in deciding who will be in the leadership in these countries, as you pointed out. I completely agree with you there. But at the same time, someone doing something like that, which affects our people and a constitutionally protected right on our soil, there needs to be a little bit more anger about that.
And precedence. You don't want this to continue, Eric.
You know what goes on over here during the UN General Council? Oh, yeah? These diplomats come over there, they speed, they break all the rules, they traffic violations, park wherever they want, they go to the clubs, they actually hire prostitutes, and we have to sit back and go, well, that's against all of our laws, but we can't touch them. I mean, they have diplomatic immunity.
A video of watching
these guys. I guarantee they have diplomatic immunity. I guarantee we can't touch those guys.
I think we can't touch them, Eric. You're right, but I think that politicians, whether it's McCain or whoever, coming out and condemning it strongly is important.
That's okay.
I think it's important. I think it's necessary, Sid, because otherwise we don't want to send the message that this is okay. And when you come over here, we suspend all of our cultural norms and get down how you get down, because we'll get down like that.
It was nice seeing Ann Coulter and Milo in that video too. That was very nice.
All right.
I missed it.
You missed that part?
Yeah.
All right, Anthony Weiner facing the music over his child sexting case. How long could the disgraced former congressman face in prison after a guilty plea today? Oof. We're coming right back.
This morning, former Congressman Anthony Weiner, a.k.a. Carlos Danger, pleaded guilty to transferring obscene material to a minor. In the courtroom, Weiner read a statement saying, quote, "I accept full responsibility for my conduct. I have a sickness, but I do not have an excuse." As part of his plea agreement, he will have to register as a sex offender. He'll also surrender his passport, forfeit his iPhone, and is barred from having any further contact with the girl. So I'm going to start with both Bernie and Sid on this. I know you both have young daughters. Yours just 13, yours recent college graduate. Right. I have to ask you, as a father, is there anything close to justice looking familiar in this situation for you?
I heard he's looking at 23 months, a minimum of
21 to 27
something
months.
like
and he said he would not appeal that. He would be okay with that, 21 to 27
And that's what the
months.
prosecutors recommend. But is that amount of time in jail justice for you as fathers of young girls? I mean, this girl was literally 15 years old.
Actually, maybe not. Maybe he could do a little more time. I would be, if it was me and my daughter and I caught him live, I mean, I might put a knife in his neck.
That's my
like
question.
that.
Okay.
But anyway, you know what I'm hoping? First of all, he and Bill Clinton were this close to the center of power. Can you imagine Anthony Weiner and Bill Clinton standing on the stage while Hillary's getting sworn in as president. Anyway, it didn't happen. Thank the Lord Jesus. But here's what I'm hoping. He cut a deal with the federal prosecutors. He knows something about the Hillary corruption that he said, look, I have something for you guys, which is why he's going to get such a small sentence. That's what I'm. That's
what you're thinking.
That's my thinking.
I'm going to push back on that. I'm going to get you and said, I'm thinking no. I'm thinking if it were like that, he wouldn't be serving any jail time if he had a fish that big.
Agreed.
This is a pretty standard plea deal
right.
that we
and he'll do his 21 months, and he'll say he'll never do it again. Look, I think, and I really mean this, I think for guys or gals that do crimes like this, he should be castrated. I mean this sincerely. I'm not kidding.
Chemically.
Yeah, chemically castrated.
So you thought about it?
Yeah, we talked about it
we
today.
talked about something on the Bernie and Sid on ABC today. When you commit a sex crime, and that's what, he's a pedophile,
yes.
You should be castrated. Because when he gets out of jail in 2 years, guess what? He's going to be hunting for the next 50 years. That doesn't go away.
He said, I have a sickness, but I don't have an excuse, which is like saying it's not my fault, but I accept responsibility.
Right.
So
he's such a victim. He's a victim in these messages to this girl, like, my wife, she doesn't want me anymore, and now I have to take care of the baby. And then now he's like, oh, it's so sad. I was getting better, and then I messed up. He still sees himself as a victim. He still thinks the world owes him something.
That's right.
He's never going to change. It's going to be really hard for him
from grace.
to
This
go.
guy could have been mayor. His wife could have been in the White House. You would look at Anthony Weiner as a big-time guy in this country, and now he's reduced to this.
So, Eric, here's my question to you. To this notion of rehabilitation, because he says he was in treatment and recovery and whoop-de-whoop, is it possible? Do you think it's possible for these sex offenders to be rehabilitated?
This guy?
Yes.
No. If you watch the documentary Weiner, it's one of it's the most compelling documentaries you'll see. And they followed Anthony Weiner through his mayoral candidacy.
Yeah.
And he gets caught twice during the documentary on camera of doing this stuff. But you honestly have to feel bad for Uma Abedin. I mean, you see her while the cameras are rolling,
and her kid.
and they're so to speak, exposing Anthony Weiner for what he's been doing.
Eric, you and your puns.
No. I'm telling you, you have to feel bad for Uma Abedin in this, because she is just caught blindsided by his obviously disgusting behavior.
I feel like you'd say you were blindsided the first time, maybe you were blindsided the second time. You're not blindsided the third time.
Wow, but that's like the battered wife. You know, she's been beaten for years. She's still the victim in this.
This feeds into my theory that maybe he has something because she kept him close so he wouldn't spill all the beans. Otherwise, what's the explanation for keeping him around all these times?
Because exposing him at the time would have ruined
He's
Hillary.
so good looking.
Right. No. And by the way, how about James Comey's ineptness, intent? He had classified material on his disgusting, sleazy laptop that she put there. Intent? What do you mean intent? It was there. That's a crime right there. Where was Comey on that?
Well, I think that's the point, too, is ultimately this did lead to Hillary. Talk about whom. I mean, she had a horrible year.
Yeah.
Ultimately, this stuff led to the reinvestigation of Hillary and Hillary to this day says that's why she lost. Now, we know that's not true. But here's the other thing, Eric. We saw that Anthony, during his weeping, he was crying, a grown man crying in open court around this plea deal, still wearing his wedding ring, right? But Huma, not there.
He is
what
sick.
in the world?
He is a sick human being to continue to do this time and time again, continue to get caught, saying he's not going to do it again, gets caught again. He is an absolute pathological, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think she's sick with him
pathological
because of the kid. I really believe, there was rumors about her and Tony Goldwyn in Hollywood. I really believe she wants to give it a try because of the child. I do.
I think she was obsessed with him because I heard rumors of how they got started. Really, it's documented that she thought he was very unattractive, to your point, Kat.
Right.
Didn't like him, shunned him.
But he was
like,
funny and smart.
Funny and smart. And I think she saw a lot of...
the same thing.
I think Sid, you're all right. I think she saw a lot of potential, a lot of political potential in him. I mean, he was a very brilliant mind for the Democratic Party for a long time, and ultimately he was his own undoing.
Maybe after the first time, not after the second time. To me, something stinks.
And then the third time, and then now it's a kid.
Oh my God, in so many ways, Kat. Well, don't go back. When we come back, we're going to circle back with our specialists, both Sid and Bernie. Stay with us.
It's hot up in here, DJ, don't be scared to...
All right, time to circle back with our specialists, Bernie McGuirk and Sid Rosenberg. Guys, one question that we've been getting on Twitter during the show: how can people listen to your radio? Where can they hear you?
WABCRadio.com. There's an app. There's also iHeartRadio, and we're on 77 on the WABC Radio in New York City, in the tri-state area.
I'm going to throw you a real quick question. How's my friend Don Imus doing?
He's killing it, doing great. his health is good, and he's as fiery and feisty as ever.
We're actually both used to hate me, but I think he likes it.
Yeah, he likes you now.
He does like it. And we're both on that show. Our day starts at 6 a.m. with IMIS.
Yes,
we do 6 to 9 on IMIS, and we do our own show from 9 to noon. So we're on 6 hours a day on
Do you
WABC.
sleep at all?
No.
No, you just no.
Absolutely not. What is that, by the way? Can you tell me?
I think he slept in 82. That was about the last
Back
time.
in 82.
Yeah, I think so.
That's okay. You know what? There's plenty of time for that.
You got a question?
Sid, yes, I do. Your watch is like smacking me in the face right now, along with your cufflinks. Can we give this guy a little?
And you know what's funny about this?
Little
Take a look at
glam
this.
cam?
This looks like it probably costs a couple $1,000s, right?
There it is.
We'll tell you the God's honest truth. Are we on TV?
You look like you mugged 50 Cent.
Right.
What the hell?
The watch is $200, and the cufflinks,
Yep.
$40.
These cufflinks remind me of my pageant days.
$240.
Stunning. They're
But it
absolutely
looks
stunning.
it looks
You look like $1 million.
Right.
Sid.
$240 you can
When
look
he
like
gets
that.
on the subway to go home, he takes it off and puts it in his
I know.
They're wearing clothes that look expensive. If you're going to tell everybody they're not expensive,
I shouldn't do that, right?
you shouldn't do that. You just blew it.
This watch is $5 grand, Kat.
He's an everyman cat. I like it. I like it. It's relatable.
I want to
Any
appeal to those
circle
guys.
backs?
Yeah, I wondered when he slept, so I already asked that. He says he does not.
No.
So now,
And do you
now I have
does
the
not.
answer.
I don't
I see
sleep
you on
much
Twitter
either.
at like all hours of the night.
That's right.
Are you a human being? I just wonder.
My daughter just graduated from college. It was 6 hours up, 6 hours back this past weekend. No, sleep. I'm looking forward to it one of these days, but it'll come.
My mother always says, old Jewish lady, young Jewish lady, you sleep when you're dead. So we're not going to sleep till we
My mom
die.
says the same
Which,
thing.
you know,
What's her excuse?
All right, you
at
guys
this
are
rate could be any day.
We enjoyed having you, especially on a Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to our Fox News specialists, these guys, to Bernie McGuirk and Sid Rosenberg. And thank all of you for watching. Make sure to follow us on social media. Specialists, FNC, on Twitter, Facebook. Remember, 5 o'clock never be the same. Brett Baer now.